You are listening to WSYC 88.7 FM. We serve your community here at Shippensburg, PA. My name is JD Dorazio, the host of the designated speaker here on WSYC 88.7. Have you guys for the next hour, if you're listening on to the YouTube page, you see I'm rocking the fresh throwback maroon Phillies jacket because we got a red October brewing in Philadelphia. Can't wait to talk about the Phillies. But before we talk about the good, we got to talk about some of the bad, which was what went down this past Sunday with the Philadelphia Eagles. But before we get to the good, the bad, and the ugly over there in the great city of Philadelphia, just want to thank you guys for tuning in once again. It's been a very gloomy week. Here in the mid-state, we're kind of getting the remains of Hurricane Helene, and it's just been a downpour of rain. Just rain, and nothing more than both rain. I said I'm trying to think of what you imagine. But regardless, we got to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to get right into what's been going down with the Eagles because I'm starting to get concerned. So back on Sunday, the Eagles took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after they had a big win against the Saints, an ugly win, but a win nonetheless, to get back up to 2-1 in the year. They come down to Tampa to face a quality opponent, a big-time test, and they laid an absolute goose egg. Not literally on the scoreboard. They put up 16 points, but in terms of their performance, of what they brought to the table, it was an absolute goose egg. It was ugly. It was bad. They lost 33-16, and I can go in a million different directions in terms of the analysis of what went wrong. I can go in so many different directions. But the fact of the matter is, the Eagles are just bad. The Eagles are just a bad, mediocre football team right now in its current state. Is that an overreaction? I don't think it is. I know injuries are a big part of it, but in its current state, in the current state of the Eagles that we saw on Sunday, taking the roster on the field for what it is, and yes, I understand they were down Lane Johnson, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I understand that. But in the current state of the Eagles on last Sunday, they are a mediocre football team that might be good enough to win a wild card spot, but I don't know if they're good enough to contend in the division. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but you could make a serious argument right now that the Eagles are the third best team in the NFC East. You can make an argument now that Jalen Hurts is the third best quarterback in the NFC East. And it blows my mind that we're here in week 4 and we're already saying these things, but here we are. So let's break down the game. I want to start out by saying the Buccaneers just flat out own the Eagles. They just flat out own us. The Buccaneers are the Eagles' father. They have beaten them 6 out of the last 7 games dating back to 2015. 6 out of the last 7. I have the last 5 games pulled up here, but I did the math. It's 6 out of the last 7. But obviously they beat us last Sunday. They beat us in the playoffs at the beginning of this calendar year. They beat us 32-9. We beat them in 2023. Then they beat us in 2022, 31-15. And they beat us in 2021, 28-22. And then we lose again in 2018. We lose again in 2015. So since 2015, we've only beaten them once, and that was in 2023. The Buccaneers just own the Eagles. They just do. I don't know what it is about them. The Buccaneers are a good team, absolutely, but they're by no means, maybe except that Brady year, I'll give them a pass. The year the Bucs won the Super Bowl, the Brady year, I'll give them a pass. That was an elite team. They won the Super Bowl, for crying out loud. Other than that year, the Buccaneers have just been a solid, above average, middle of the pack team. Great ran organization, but by no means one of the top bloods, one of the big dogs in the NFL. Just an above average squad. The Eagles make them look like they're glorified Super Bowl contenders each and every year. Baker Mayfield goes 30 of 47 for 347 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Eagles. Hurts only counters with 18 out of 30 on his passing attempts for only 158 yards and a touchdown. Only 158 passing yards. 158. In a game where you're losing from the jump. So it's not like you had a run-heavy game script. No, you were down 24-0 before halftime in the second quarter. And you still only pass for 158 yards. At this point, the defense is just not trying to let up the big play. The passing game should be wide open. Wide open. And again, I know what you're thinking. No Devontae Smith, no A.J. Brown. I don't care. I don't care if they're out. There's no reason whatsoever to only pass for 158 passing yards. There's no excuse. I'm sorry. None. Nada. Zero. Cero for my Spanish speakers. It's, oh my Lord. It is just, it's not good. I'm looking at my notes here. I mean, it was just a horrendous game. Let's talk about Jalen. I just talked about him. Let's hear from Jalen, because he has a thing for having interesting post-game quotes. We'll phrase it that way. Here's Jalen Hurts after the game when asked about his performance, and when he's asked about his coach, Nick Sirianni, which we'll get into here in a minute. Here is the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts.
Do you two talk about maybe, what you want the message to be to the team, or how you kind of want to handle, as you guys go into the second part of the year?
We have our moments.
What's your plan for playing?
I don't know yet. I think overall, I just have to play better. We have to play better. We have a ton of opportunities to lead the offense and really play complementary ball, and it starts with me on that side of the ball, and how we get down like we did. We got to help. I have to help the defense out, executing, communicating. The things that I'm seeing on the field, and just trying to really create the momentum that we need just to get in the end zone. It starts with me in terms of getting in the end zone and leading drives, and I didn't do a good enough job with that.
It starts with me leading good drives and getting us into the end zone. You know what it starts with, Jalen? You want to know what it starts with, Jalen? It starts with not turning the ball over, bro. It starts with holding on to the football. That's step number one. That's how you help out the defense, by not turning the football over and getting the opposition a short field. Because guess what? Jalen Hurts with another turnover in the red zone yesterday. It happened against New Orleans. It happens against the Packers. Happens once again against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Another one, as DJ Cott would say. Another one. Another red zone turnover by Jalen Hurts. That's the problem right there. That's the first issue they need to address, is Jalen Hurts' ball security. What is going on with Jalen Hurts? Seriously, what is going on? What happened to the Super Bowl Jalen Hurts? What happened to the rookie year, second year, the Oklahoma, the Alabama Jalen Hurts? Just fundamentally sound football, and all of it's gone. All of it. I understand it's his third offensive coordinator in 3 seasons, and that can be hard to adapt to new systems over time. It takes time. And I think Kellen Moore is a significant upgrade over Brian Johnson. I understand it's going to take some time to get used to his philosophy. But I'm trying to find the right words to describe my feelings, but just the absolute pathetic nature of play that we've seen out of Jalen Hurts is just not going to cut it. I mean, this is a guy who's being paid to be, at the bare minimum, a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. You can ask Jalen. The standard's higher than top 10, but I would say that's the bare minimum to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I don't even know if he's top 15 right now of how he's playing with all these turnovers. It's terrible. I mean, the Eagles are right at the bottom, or right near the bottom. I forget the exact number. I can try to Google it here real quick. Eagles turnover differential. Eagles are -6, -6 in turnover differential. That's second worst in the NFL. -6. That's not going to win football games. Winning the turnover battle, one of the most important things you can do in a football game. So what's the answer? Is what we have to come to now. What's the answer? Is it the injuries? Is everything going to be A-okay once Lane Johnson comes back, once Devontae Smith comes back, once A.J. Brown comes back? Once they all come back, is everything just going to magically, with the snap of the fingers, get better? Maybe. Possibly. Wouldn't shock me. But I feel like when you're down 24-0 in 2 quarters against the Buccaneers, there's bigger issues than just the injuries. Let's start with the play calling. And this one, I can't even blame Nick Sirianni for, because he has no control over the offensive play calling. In a game where you have no A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith, who do you think you rely on? Maybe it's Dallas Goedert, and certainly Dallas Goedert was involved. He was the leading receiving for the Eagles, 7 catches, 62 yards. But there's another guy that comes to mind. Trying to think of, Saquon Barkley, the guy you just paid all that money to run the football, to catch the football. He gets 12 touches against the Buccaneers. 12! In a game with no AJ and no Devontae. And yes, I understand the game script was not run heavy since they were down so much from the start. But it's still Saquon Barkley. You have to give him the football. In a game where your top 2 receivers are out and your best playmaker gets the ball 12 times, you're almost asking for a loss. The game script argument's just not applicable or applicable when it comes to Saquon Barkley. There's no excuse whatsoever for him not to touch the football. None. Again, I can't blame Sirianni for that. Nick Sirianni is going to be the scapegoat when it comes to Philadelphia Eagles this year. It's just how it's going to be. Jalen Hurts could suck as much as humanly possible, but Nick Sirianni will take the fall for everything that goes down this year, good or bad. That's just how it is with the current state of the Eagles. But if I'm Howie Roseman, if I'm Jeffrey Lurie, I'm going to say this live on the air on WSYC 88.7 FM, on the YouTube, on the JD Dorazio YouTube. If I'm Howie Roseman or Jeffrey Lurie, I'd fire Nick Sirianni right now. And that's not to say he's fully to blame. I think there's sort of a domino effect, if you will, if you were to fire Nick Sirianni. I just think you need to switch something up. I know it's week 4. And the Eagles could easily go on a little run after coming out of their bye week. But it just looks like all the same issues from last year are slightly better. It's slightly better than it was last year, but they are far from the team they were at the beginning of the year last year. Far from it. And I just don't see the Philadelphia Eagles winning a Super Bowl under Nick Sirianni. I just don't see them winning a Super Bowl underneath him. I think they're better off just naming Kellen Moore as an intern head coach and maybe keep him in Fangio, but I think you need a new face of the organization. Sirianni had his run, and I just don't know. Obviously, that's not going to happen. That's my pitch to the Eagles, but that's not going to happen. Sirianni will ride out this year as Eagles head coach unless if things go really, 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 really bad. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. He'll probably remain on the roster as the head coach for the rest of the season. If I was the Eagles, I would just get it done right now. Personally. That's just me. But I'm the panic button's hit. I'm officially concerned. And it's week 4. I'm concerned about the Eagles team. I'm concerned about Jalen Hurts, especially looking around the division. The Washington Commanders might actually be a problem this year. They have looked really, really, really good. Only loss against the Bucks. They looked better against the Bucks than we did. And all their other games, they've looked amazing. They beat the Bengals. They beat the Cardinals. Beat the Giants. I understand none of those teams are super good in the win-loss category right now. But just the eye test, the Commanders are going to be a problem. And the Cowboys, they're always going to be a problem. As much as we like to hate on the Cowboys, you're lying to yourself if you don't see just the raw talent that's on that roster. Would not shock me if the Eagles finish 3rd in division this year. Is it my official prediction? No, it's not. But if you told me at the end of the year they finished 3rd, I wouldn't be like wide-eyed looking like, what the heck happened here? I would be, I could see that happening. And I could say the same thing about Jalen Hurts being the 3rd best quarterback in the NFC East. It's just how it is right now. It's just how it is. Well, I gave the offense my wrath. We'll step aside here. I'll catch my breath. I don't know if you can tell. My voice is just the tiniest bit raspy. Over the weekend, I took a little road trip down to Ocean City, Maryland for a music festival, the Oceans Calling Music Festival. Had the time of my life. Was rocking out to the Killers, Blink 182, The Offspring, Young the Giant, so many awesome bands. But I'm feeling the effects without my voice. So I'm going to power up, get some water, try to power through the rest of the show. We're going to step aside real quick. We'll be back in 30 seconds here on WSYC 88.7 Shippensburg, PA. You're listening to the Designated Speaker with JD Dorazio. All right, just got my little power up, feeling good. Got 40 minutes left of the show. Thanks for joining us. You're listening to WSYC 88.7 FM, Shippensburg, PA. JD Dorazio here with you for 40 more minutes, talking about the Birds right now. And not a lot of positive things being said about the Eagles right now on the show, but we only talk the offense. So let's talk about the defense. Don't have as much commentary, just because the offense played so bad where you kind of aren't even really worried about the defense right now. But the defense is not really much better right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. TJ Gardner-Johnson, who I was really excited when the Eagles brought him back, got him back from the Detroit Lions. He has been extremely underwhelming, to say the least. Extremely underwhelming. Missing tackles, receivers open in the deep parts of the field, the area he's supposed to patrol as a safety. But more than that, I'm not a huge fan of his attitude. I love when people can trash talk properly and back it up. But when you trash talk week in and week out and the results aren't there, it is one of the most annoying things as a fan. He's just giving opponents a bulletin board material, as I call it, each and every week. Each and every week. Made some comments about the Bucs. Then he gets absolutely smoked by the Bucs. I don't know, CJ. We need to keep the mouth shut until we start playing better football. How about that for a change? But I'm not necessarily concerned about. I know the talent's there with CJ Gardner-Johnson. I think it's only a matter of time before he starts to show it. But it's been a very poor start of the season for him. Avonte Max needs to get benched. Bro just needs to hit the bench. Let's give Cooper DeJean a shot. Cooper DeJean, as the Philly fans like to call him. Avonte Max, I mean, he has just looked lousy. He's looked worse than CJ. I'll give CJ that. CJ's looked better than Avonte Maddox, but I've not liked what I've seen. I think we just need to see what Cooper DeJean can do. The Eagles have their bye week to figure him out, get him used to the defensive schemes. I would expect and am hoping to see Cooper as the starter coming out of the Week 5 bye. We'll have to see. I'm so confused because last week I finally thought the defense was starting to figure it out because they looked so good against the Saints. I was loving it. I thought Fangio finally put the puzzle pieces together and started clicking all the right buttons, and then his defense lets up 24 points in about a quarter and a half of play, and we're back to square one, not knowing what the heck's going on with our football team. Again, the offense doesn't really help you out. You're asking a lot of your defense when you're not even sustaining drives other than a few plays. It's hard. But the tackling's got to get better. The coverage has got to get better. Bryce Huff is still non-existent. The only guy that is worth a you-know-what on this defense is Quinyon Mitchell. That bro is a stud. That guy is a baller. Love Quinyon. Everyone else, though, not everyone. Jalen Carter has also looked really good. Zach Bond has been a good addition. But overall, as a defense, it's not good. There's only a few guys, probably guys I can count on one hand, that have really impressed me defensively. Quinyon Mitchell's looked good. Zach Bond's been good. Jalen Carter's been good. Josh Wood has had his moments. That might be about it, to be honest. I mean, you know what you're getting with Brandon Graham, but is he really a highlight player in the year 2024 for the Philadelphia Eagles? Because if so, we're in trouble. Bryce Huff still nowhere to be found. Oh, man. All this leads me to saying I was originally upset when the Eagles' schedule was released and I saw they had a Week 5 bye. But honestly, given the state of this team already, maybe a Week 5 bye is exactly what the Eagles need. Think about it. We're injury ruled. We haven't looked good. Already falling behind the division. Maybe a week 5 bye is what the Eagles need to get right. Let's get people healthy. Devontae and AJ and Lane should all be back after this bye. I'd be shocked if they aren't. I'd be a little alarmed if they aren't. And maybe they can get things back on track. The season's still young. Lots of football to be played still. Maybe next year I can give me something, some form of hope. But right now I just feel like he is just going to be just on a direct highway to unemployment. At least with the Philadelphia Eagles. He'll get picked up somewhere in some capacity. But with the Philadelphia Eagles, he is on a direct route to unemployment with the way things are looking. That's basically it for the Eagles. I'm trying to make sure if I missed anything off the top of my head, but I think I covered all the bullet points. Credit the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, impressive how he is able to just pump out a very solid NFL career given all the hate, all the publicity he's been through his entire career. He is living up to the first round pick potential, and he's having himself a solid career. Happy for Baker. And I understand the Bucs aren't the easiest team defensively to handle. Evans and Godwin are still one of the premier wide receiver duos, but there's just no excuse to look like the way they did. They made the Buccaneers look like the Brady team all over again. Bucs just have the Eagles' number. The Buccaneers just have the Eagles' number. It is what it is. They got to live and learn. And again, bright side, you're 2-2. Whole season's still ahead of you. Everything you want is still in your control. Long season left. Let's not overreact yet. Let's just give our birds a few more weeks, see what they can do. But luckily, there's another team in Philadelphia who I think is worth way more attention. That, of course, is the Philadelphia Phillies, baby. It is Red October season. Thank goodness it's Red October because I don't even want to worry about the Eagles right now. I'm dialed in. I'm investing in the Phillies. I'm rocking the retro fit today. If you're watching on the YouTube, let me know what you think of the fit. But let's look ahead to Red October because the Phillies did what they had to do. We were talking about on the show last week. They got to get that first round bye, and they got it. They clinched number 2 seed in the NL East. They did end up losing a series to the Nationals. I'm not super worried about them losing to the series to the Nationals because they won the division, baby. Philadelphia Phillies are NL East champs. Have not been able to talk publicly about this until right now. I've waited so long to say the Phillies are NL East champs, and here we are. And there's a little thumbs up on the stream. Is that like a feature on? For those that are listening, look at that! Wow, some little special effects. For those that are just on the radio, that are just listening on WSYC, I record my shows live on camera, and I guess I have a MacBook. If I make certain gestures with my fingers, I get like emotes that come up. Yeah, that's really cool. So if you're confused about what I'm talking about, watch the YouTube stream. Fast forward to like 25 minutes in or 24 minutes in. You'll see what I'm talking about. Anyways, back on track. The Phillies are NL East Division champs. They finally win the division first time since 2011. They get the first round bye, and they're looking ahead to a Red October. Again, they lose the series in Washington. They take 1 out of 3 against the Nats. And let's just start with the last game of the regular season and a certain man who made a immaculate play to end the game. I don't want to spoil it in case you didn't watch the game, so I will let Tom McCarthy take over. Here was the official call from the last out of the Phillies 2024 regular season.
That one's hit well out to left field. Clemens is going back out toward the wall. He jumps and he made the catch. Cody Clemens just finished off 2024. He did it with a bang. What a way to finish off the last game of the 2024 season.
Cody Clemens with a game-saving catch at the wall with the bases loaded and 2 outs. Makes an incredible leaping catch at the wall to secure a victory for the last game of the Phillies season. The game was meaningless, but it was just awesome to see him do that. And I thought it was very poetic of this Phillies year for him to do that in that moment. because this has been the story for this team all year. The unsung heroes. Guys like Cal Stevenson, Buddy Kennedy, Michael Mercado, Tyler Phillips. I understand some of these guys had poor performances, but at one point during the season, these guys were valuable assets. Valuable assets. Colby Allard. So many just random plug-and-play guys. Edmundo Sosa when Trey Turner was hurt. When Alec Boehm was hurt even. So many plug-and-play guys that just did what they had to do to get the Phillies through the regular season. Garrett Stubbs, another one when JT was hurt. Rafael Marchand, another one. So many unsung heroes for the Phillies in this season that has led them to being NL East champs. Everyone wants to talk about the Harpers, the Schwarbers, the Trey Turners, the JT Realmutos, the Nick Castellanos of the world, which those guys were great. Also, shout out Nick Castellanos for playing all 162 games this year. Love to see that. That's an amazing accomplishment. Good for you, Cassie. But so many unsung heroes for the Phillies. And I saw this really interesting statistic on Twitter, and I'd love to share it with you all. This comes from Phillies Tailgate on Twitter. The Phillies used 110 different lineups this season. 110. Their most common lineup was only used in 7 games this year. 7 games of an identical lineup was the maximum. 110 different lineups, only the same lineup happened 7 times. That lineup was Schwarber. This is from like batting 1 through 9. Schwarber at DH, Turner at short, Harper at first, Boehm at third, Realmuto at catcher, Marsh in left, Cassie in right, Stott, and then Rojas. Only saw that lineup in that order 7 times. I understand that you had those same guys in different orders, but the point still stands. The Phillies had to use absolutely everybody to get through this season, and the team performed. The team did what they had to do, and they were rewarded for it with an NL East title. You love to see it. It brings a smile to my face. I'm so invested in this Phillies team. I really am. And I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Cody Clemens is exactly what we wanted Whit Merrifield to be. Except he's younger, more agile, cheaper. I love me some Cody Clemens. But let's backtrack to the rest of the National Series. Because they did drop 2 out of 3, but I'm not concerned whatsoever. Wheeler and Nola both look good in their respective starts. Wheeler gives up 2 runs. Nola gives up 3. You can live with that. What I am worried about, though, is Ranger Suarez. Let's talk about Mr. Ranger, because Ranger did not have a good game, and he has not had a good game for what seems to be a while. Ranger goes 2 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 2 walks and 2 strikeouts for those wondering. 2 innings out of Ranger. Keep in mind, Ranger was like a Cy Young candidate early on this year. And now, he's not even a top 3 starter for the Phillies. He is undoubtedly the number 4 going into the postseason. And no ifs, ands, or buts. Ranger Suarez is behind Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez. And I'll go one step further. If I'm Rob Thompson, and I do think this is how Rob's going to handle it. I really do believe this. Once Ranger Suarez makes his postseason start, which he will, unless the Phillies sweep the NLDS, which would be amazing, which is still a possibility. But assuming when Ranger pitches in the NLDS, he'll be the number 4 starter. If he's having a good game, and he's on, I'm using quotation marks, if he's on and having a good game, I only see him going 3 to 4 innings max. After what we've seen, just the potential of a blow-up inning happening anytime, any place, anywhere. If he's having a good game, I think Topper only lets him go 3 to 4 innings, and I can't blame him. That's what I would do. I would not consider throwing Ranger around to the lineup a 3rd time. Not after what we've seen. Maybe he only goes around the lineup once. I think that might be a bit extreme, but I think 3 to 4 innings is all we're going to see out of Ranger. He might just turn into a bullpen guy as well, depending how deep of a run the Phillies go on. He might just be a bullpen arm, kind of like how they did in 2022. He was the guy that came in the ninth inning and sent the Phillies to the World Series. Now our bullpen's much deeper than that team. We have a way stronger bullpen. There's no world where Ranger Suarez should have to come into a ninth inning. Estevez, Hoffman, Strahm, Kerkering, Alvarado's starting to find his groove as well once again. We have guys in the bullpen. Not really worried about the bullpen. Obviously, you're always going to be holding your breath if it's a tight game and you're using your bullpen guys, but we've been relying on them all year long, and they've been studs. You can't change the tone now come postseason. I trust the bullpen. But Ranger Suarez, I have question marks around. I'm really curious to see how limited he will be for the Phillies on the mound this October. We're going to take another quick timeout. Going to step aside for 60 seconds for station identification. When we come back, we're going to talk about the clinching scenarios, what the first round bye means to the Phillies. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Designated Speaker with JD Dorazio on WSYC 88.7 FM. We serve your community. Just let me adore you. That's all I want to do. All I want to do is adore the Phillies come this October. You're listening to the Designated Speaker on WSYC 88.7, Shippensburg, PA, wherever you are from, however you may be listening, whether it's on the radio, on the YouTube, or you're catching up on the clips on the Instagram and TikTok. I appreciate you supporting me and supporting the show. It is truly an honor and a blessing for y'all to be here. But before the break, we were talking about the Phillies. They got their first round bye. And I'll tell you what, the first round bye was a really, really, really big deal because the Phillies just needed a week off their feet. And I understand the argument that a week off your feet can mess up your stride and your rhythm. I think that applies to some teams. I have this conversation with my dad all the time, who's another diehard Phillies fan. Dad, if you're watching, love you. The Phillies are a veteran-oriented squad. They're going to do their same routine day in and day out. I'm not worried about them losing their stride, losing their rhythm. If you watch the Phillies all year, you know they're a very streaky team regardless. I don't think a week off is going to change how hot or cold they may be. You just never know what version of the Phillies you're going to get, and hopefully they're on. If they're on, they're a very tough team to beat. If they're cold, then it might be some tight, close pitching games in October, but the bye was important because, first of all, you automatically advance to the second round. You don't have to worry about the wild card round, which is beyond scary. Beyond scary. At best out of three, who knows what can happen. I can't even imagine what it'd been like when it was the best of one. I mean, that is just even scarier. But it allows them to get healthier. JT, Bryce, Bohm, these are all guys that were battling injuries. In the second half of the year, it just allows them to have a week without worrying about going through the grind of having games every day. And most importantly, it gives you home field advantage in the LDS. The home field advantage at Citizens Bank Park is real, it's lethal, it's dangerous. Are the Phillies still beatable at home? Absolutely. Saw the D-backs do it last October. But the Phillies are much, much harder to beat at home than I would say most other teams at their home venues in October. That place is just different. And I've been there. I've experienced it. And hopefully I'll be experiencing it again this weekend. So let's talk about the playoff scenarios. The Phillies have their first round bye locked up. And actually, the playoff scenarios are undergoing as we speak because the Mets and Braves are currently on the second game of a doubleheader that has serious playoff implications. The Mets won Game 1 of the doubleheader, so they secured their spot in postseason, which, by the way, that Game 1 between the Mets and the Braves, one of the most entertaining baseball games I've ever watched live for any team. That was insane. All the score changes, everything back and forth. I mean, they won 8-7. The Mets won 8-7 in a game where 10 runs were scored combined in the 10th inning. Braves had the lead. The Mets take the lead in the top of the 8th. Braves take the lead back in the bottom of the 8th. And Francisco Lindor hits a 2-run homer in the top of the 9th. I mean, I was going crazy. I was going insane. These are the two teams I hate most in all baseball. Even I was loving it. Regardless, The Mets already clinched the playoff spot, so now the Braves, in the second game of the doubleheader, are in a do-or-die situation. They need to win, or they're eliminated from the postseason. Currently, they're up 1-0 in the top of the 7th against the Mets. So if that score holds, and the Braves beat the Mets, then the Phillies would play let me phrase this properly. If the Braves beat the Mets, which right now it looks like they're going to, then the Phillies would face the winner of the Brewers and Mets for their NLDS matchup. If the Mets come back and win and beat the Braves and sweep them, we play the winner of the Brewers and the D-backs. So essentially, your three choices for the NLDS are the Brewers, the Mets if the Braves win, or the D-backs if the Mets. Now I'm confusing myself. Yeah, if the Mets win, you play the D-backs. The fact of the matter is, I don't care which team we play. I know that was very poorly worded. In a matter of minutes, half an hour or so, it's going to be irrelevant because we're going to know who the Phillies are playing anyways. But the point of the matter is, you get the Braves, you get the Mets, or you get the D-backs. It's one of those three teams guaranteed. And is it a crazy take? And maybe it is. Maybe I'm out of my mind. But I want the Brewers out of those three teams. That's the matchup I like the most, even though on paper the Brewers have the best record and are the best team of those three. I don't know what it is. I just like the way we match up against the Brewers. We saw what the D-backs could do to us last October. Would like to stay away from that. I still have just terrible trauma from that Game 7 and being there live. I don't even want to think about it. I get physically ill. The Mets, and while that would be absolutely dope and sick to play the Mets in the NLDS in a best of 5, as a division rival, I would like to stray away from that if possible, but we've had success against the Braves. But I would prefer the Brewers to the Mets just because of the division rivalry. The Mets, no, it's just as good as any team in baseball. And I think we fare the best shot against the Brewers, regardless whether it's the D-backs, Mets, or Brewers. The Phillies are the best team against all three, and they should have no excuses in beating them. This is playoff baseball. Anything can possibly happen. Anything. It's now the bottom of the 7th. Braves are still up 1-0, so the Mets only have 6 outs to work with to tie it up, or the Braves are moving on to the postseason, which, and by the way, if that score holds, I think that just holds so much more weight to the Phillies win the NL East. To win a division where 3 teams from that division are making the playoffs, it says a lot. It says a lot. The Phillies, Mets, Braves all make the postseason. The Phillies winning that division is just so much more impressive. You don't see that very often where 3 teams from the same division make the playoffs. It just doesn't happen a lot. It's hard to do. It takes a lot of talent in such a tight division to pull that off, but it looks like the NL East might be doing just that. And I think it's one of the most underrated divisions in baseball in terms of difficulty. Everyone wants to talk about the AL East being a very hard division, which it is. I'm not saying it's not, but I think the NL East is right up in there. I don't think it's better than the NL East, but I think it's easily a top 3 most hardest division in baseball to win. The Marlins are kind of the bottom feeders, but the Nats are a young team who have lots of potential, are always a hard game to win. You have the Phillies, obviously, who is one of the biggest juggernauts in baseball. The Braves are the definition of consistency. And the Mets are, again, another big market team who has star power. It's a very tough division to win. I'm very proud of the Phillies for getting the job done, but they still have a lot of work to do. They have a lot more work to do. And I'm just so excited for Red October. I cannot wait for Red October. I'm ready. Bring it on. I'm ready for the home runs. I'm ready for the strikeouts. I'm ready for it all, baby. Cannot wait. Cannot wait. That's pretty much all I got on the Phillies, though. Now we just got to wait and see what's going on. I'm curious to see who they're going to play. We got to see how the Brewers series goes with whether they play the Mets or the Diamondbacks. I will be watching that series extremely, extremely closely. Extremely closely. We're going to step aside one last time here on the Designated Speaker. When we come back, last commercial break of the show, we'll break down some of the other storylines in the NFL from Week 4. We also have a Monday night doubleheader tonight. I'll give you my picks for the 2 games tonight. All that and a little bit more when we come back for the last 15 minutes on the Designated Speaker. You're listening to WSYC 88.7 FM, Shippensburg, PA. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back after this short break. Welcome back to the Designated Speaker on WSYC 88.7 FM. JD Dorazio here for you guys for 14 more minutes. Let's talk about Week 4 of the NFL season. A little bit of an interesting week. Again, we already talked about the Eagles' collapse against the Bucs at the top of the show. Called for Nick Sirianni's firing. Expressed my concern for Jalen Hurts. Just disgusted with the lack of involvement from Saquon Barkley. Talk about how trash the defense was, but mainly was just calling for Nick Sirianni's head when push comes to shove. Then we transition to the Phillies, talking about the big catch from Cody Clemens and just how this whole team, from all members of the organization, from your starters to your bench guys to your prospects, have all played a part in this year. Talk about the postseason clinching scenarios. We talk about a little bit of everything. This has been a great show so far. I'm so happy for you guys if you're still listening. But let's go a bit more broad. Kind of just escape the world of Philadelphia and just kind of go out wide and see what's going on elsewhere in the NFL. Let's start with that Chiefs-Chargers game. The Chiefs win once again, 17-10 to advance to 4-0. They remain perfect on the year. But I want to talk about the Patrick Mahomes, for starters, has looked underwhelming at best. He's 4-0, and all he's about is winning football games. So he's probably content. But he has not looked like the good old Patrick Mahomes. But what I want to talk about is a very interesting play where he threw an interception, and then his wide receiver was attempting to make a tackle, and Mahomes collided with his own wide receiver one, Rashee Rice, who is now expected to be out for the rest of the regular season with a torn ACL due to an injury from a tackle on his quarterback. I don't know if that's ever happened before in NFL history, where a quarterback is directly responsible for one of his own wide receivers being injured for the rest of the year outside of hospital passes. Outside of the passes where the guy catches the football, turns around, and gets absolutely crushed by a linebacker or something along those lines. But I'm talking about where a quarterback has directly hit his own receiver and caused him to be out for the year. I don't know if it's ever happened before. It's a crazy, crazy storyline that we're living in. So now the Chiefs have to figure out how to function without Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, and Hollywood Brown. So they're going to need Travis Kelce to step up, and they're going to probably have to find some new weapons. I think Juju Smith-Schuster's still on that roster. He'll have to step up. Maybe the Chiefs look at the trade market. Devontae Adams, that's the big name that's available right now, but the Raiders are in-division rivals with the Chiefs, so it would be shocking to see a trade like that go down, but you never know. We're in the year 2024 in the NFL. You never know. The Ravens last night, Sunday Night Football, absolutely destroying the Bills. Absolutely destroyed the Bills on Sunday Night Football, 35-10. The Ravens, after a slow start, they look like they're back to form after 2 big wins against the Cowboys and the Bills. People were talking about how they could have started 0-4. I even was throwing out the chance that they might be, but they get 2 big wins. They're back to 500, and they look like the Ravens of old. What else I got here? The Jags are 0-4. What the heck's going on in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson? The Jacksonville Jaguars lose to the Houston Texans 24-20. And people are calling for Doug Peterson's head once again. It happened once in Philadelphia. Now he's getting called for his job once again in Jacksonville. Tough times there in Jacksonville. They just paid Trevor Lawrence a lot of money. He is not living up to that contract so far. So we'll see if they can turn around. Then another interesting storyline was the Broncos-Jets game, which was only had 19 total points scored. It was pouring down rain. It was an ugly win for the Broncos after the Jets miss a game-winning field goal attempt. A 50-yarder from Greg DeLeg goes wide right. And the Broncos get the win against the Jets. Surprisingly, both of those teams, the Broncos and the Jets, are both 2-2 entering Week 5. That probably was not on a lot of people's bingo cards for this NFL season. those were all the main storylines. We have 5 minutes left in the show. I want to end the show with talking about the Monday night doubleheader. 2 games on ESPN tonight. We got the Titans and the Dolphins, and the Seahawks and the Lions. Titans-Dolphins is an interesting one because of the quarterback situation. Snoop Huntley set to make the start for the Dolphins, the former Ravens backup quarterback, now starting for the Dolphins. And I'm going to take the Dolphins in this one to beat the Titans. I don't know. It's just a gut feeling. I'm not going to lie. I don't have some stat or analytical rationale for why I think the Dolphins are going to win. I just have a gut feeling that Tyler, or his legal name's Tyler. He goes by Snoop now. Snoop Dogg, maybe? I don't know. He goes by Snoop Huntley. We're going to call him Snoop. We're going to respect that. I have a feeling he's going to ball out. I think Snoop Huntley's going to ball out for the Dolphins tonight. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling it's going to happen. Give me the Dolphins to beat the Titans tonight on Monday Night Football, 20-17. 20-17, Dolphins over Titans. Then the second game we got, another good one, Seahawks at Lions. I think this will be a much higher scoring game. I think both teams go past the 30-point marker in this one. Bit of a bold prediction, I know. But I think the Lions are able to just get by the Seahawks 35-31. Give me the Lions. Give me the Dolphins. Those are my 2 picks for tonight. And with that, that's going to do it for this episode of The Designated Speaker on WSYC 88.7 FM. I wanted to get to the Joel Embiid injury, We all know the injury is bound to happen. But no, the Joel Embiid contract extension, he was given by the Sixers. But we'll talk about that in the next show. We got to get ready for the next DJ/show host again here and get ready for their show. So we're going to respect their time. But this was a really great episode talking to you guys. When we come back next week, it's going to be talking about all about the Fightins. Hopefully we come back on Monday. Phillies are up 2-0 in the NLDS, and we can have a little bit of some good news. Eagles don't play, so we won't have nothing new to talk about with them. We'll see if there's any roster changes, any Nick Sirianni updates. We'll have it all for you here next week on The Designated Speaker. I'm JD Dorazio. Thank you for tuning in on the YouTube page. If you're listening on the radio station on WSYC 88.7 FM, I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Make sure to check out the Instagram, the TikTok. And with that, that's pretty much all I got. Go Phillies. Enjoy some playoff baseball this week. Enjoy the Monday Night Football games tonight. Another great week of sports is upon us. Go out and enjoy it. I'm going to preserve what's left of my voice, down some water, and be ready for next Monday's show. I'm JD Dorazio. Sign off on WSYC 88.7 FM. Have a great rest of your Monday night, and I'll catch you same time next week, 6 p.m. on Monday. See you later, guys. Peace.